Hello guys, welcome back into the channel. Before I get started, I'm really happy that I finally have a proper setup to record my videos on. My wife got me an Elgato HD60S capture card and I bought a Blue Yeti microphone, so the quality of my videos should improve from here on out. But I still have a couple of pre-recorded videos that I did using my older setup, so uh, my quality is not going to improve right off the bat because of those videos, but uh, they should in a couple days. But anyways, let's move on to the subject of this video. Uh, a lot of you guys have been commenting on my money glitch video about alternatives for the method that I showed you, and some of you have even mentioned a couple of stuff like doing it in certain in different tracks, doing it in using different cars, not having to do the tuning setup that I show in the video. And a lot of those comments are right, but there are a couple reasons why I said in that video that you absolutely need to use those settings. First, let me get a couple stuff uh, out of the way. Now, one of the main uh, things that I saw in the comments were people saying that it works on every track. And before I recorded that video, I tested it on a couple of tracks, and it does indeed work uh, in other tracks other than the Nürburgring 24-hour layout. And it should work on pretty much every other track. But there's a reason why I said you need to do in the Nürburgring. Currently in the game, the Nürburgring 24-hour layout is the longest track in the game. So this is the track that's going to give you the biggest payout out of all of the other tracks. You can do, let's say, for example, let me set a race. I saw someone saying that it works in Suzuka, so let's try this one because this is also one of the tracks that I tested and I can confirm that it indeed works. But let me go to Suzuka and set up a race just so you can see what I'm talking about. Let me choose the Mazda, any color. Now, here's the thing. Uh, I don't know if any of you are gonna remember the settings. This might be the very first video that you're watching, so I'm not gonna use that video as a reference. So I'm gonna set the race as I would for the very first time. So it needs to be a one lap race, and the reason for that is that if you set two races, once you trigger the animation that's gonna drive you out of the pit stop, the game is gonna consider that you've driven the entire lap. So you're gonna need to do the second lap entirely. It doesn't work with multiple laps. It would be nice for people who want to get the money fast to set a couple laps more so you can get a bigger payout. But unfortunately, you can't do that using this method at least. But anyways, you're gonna need to set a one lap race, maximum amount of cars, so 20. Starting grid, you're gonna want to start in last place. Start type rolling start. Rolling start interval doesn't interfere with the payout, but you're gonna want to start as close to the pit stop as possible. So I would suggest dropping it down to the minimum 25 meters. Boost you're gonna want to set to none so you can increase your payout. Slipstream Rio doesn't matter, mechanical damage doesn't matter, any of these settings doesn't matter. Now, opponent category you're gonna want to set to group 1, the highest one, and difficulty professional. So these are the settings that you need to use for the glitch. Now, one thing that you're gonna notice is that the payout is only 12,700 credits. This is the amount of money you're gonna get after you complete this race. And here is the reason why you need to go with the Nürburgring 24-hour layout. As you can see, we got 12,700 credits by doing a one lap race. Now, see what happens when you set this in Nürburgring 24 hours. Now, let's apply the same settings. So, one lap, 20 cars in the grid. You're gonna want to start in last place. Rolling start interval 25 meters, doesn't interfere with our payout. Boost set to none. Opponent category group 1, professional. See how much more you get as a payout, 141,000 credits. So that's a huge amount over the Suzuka track. Now I understand that many of you haven't unlocked the Nürburgring. In case you've never played Gran Turismo Sport, the tracks aren't unlocked right off the bat. So you need to play the game for a bit, level up for a little bit, and I think the Nürburgring track unlocks when you reach level 21. I'm not certain of that, so take that with a grain of salt. But you need to play the game a bit. So I understand that for some people Nürburgring is not an option, so you might want to do in whatever the longest track you have available for you to play. So this is fairly easy to check. You can see how many meters or kilometers or whatever the measurement unit in your country is right below the track's name. So you're gonna want to check which one out of the ones you have unlocked is the longest one, so you can do this in. But once you unlock Nürburgring, that's the one you should be sticking with in order to get the maximum amount of money as possible per minute. Now, moving on to another point of your comments is that people said that you can do with pretty much any car you want, and you can do without doing the tuning setup. And in fact, you can. That's not the point of that video though. The point of that video was making your life as easy as possible. Before I recorded the video, I'm not kidding, I did 2 days of testing to try and test every possibility that I could. Some of them I didn't test, some of them you guys brought up and I learned from your comments, but I tested out every possibility that I could come up with on my own before I recorded a video, so I could make sure that whatever I was gonna tell you guys, I could stand behind, because I was sure it was gonna work. And I did indeed manage to pull it off without tuning the car at all, but it's way more difficult. It's way more difficult. The purpose of that tuning setup that I showed in that video is to make your car turning ability as awful as possible, because this way when the animation triggers, the car is not gonna be able to turn back in to the pit lane easily, and it will most likely drive itself out of the pit lane, and that's exactly what you want. Now there's another method that a couple of you mentioned in the comments that, to be honest, I managed to trigger once while I was testing, but I didn't really understand what was going on until you brought up in the comments, and then that kind of clicked and then I understood what happened when that triggered. Now this is an alternative to the method that I showed, but it's by any means faster than the method that I showed. If you want to get the most amount of money as quick as possible in the least amount of time, then I would suggest that you stick with that method. But I understand that that method is not the easiest one. That method requires a little bit of practice until you nail exactly the angle your car should be facing in order for it to drive itself out of the pit lane. Now, if you're having trouble doing that method, I would recommend that you try this alternative to that method. This alternative is going to take a bit longer, so when you add this over multiple times, this is going to take you a lot longer to get the same amount of money as you would using that other method. But this is an option for you guys who are having a little bit of trouble pulling that one off. So I'm still gonna stick to the Nürburgring layout because this is the longest track that I have available, so it makes sense for me to actually do it in this track. Now, As you're gonna see in this video, I'm not gonna use any of my garage cars. I'm gonna use a rental that the game offers in this menu. If I wanted my garage cars, I would go here. Alright, so for this video, I'm still gonna be using the Mazda Roadster, and here's another reason why I chose this car specifically. It sits in the lowest category currently available in the game, the N100. So if you're gonna use any of the other cars that are higher up in the class, like the N200, the N400, any of the faster cars, you're gonna get less money than you would in an N100 car. Now let me show you what I mean by before we start the race, because I really want to clarify all of the points that you guys brought up. Now, I did that other video using this Mazda, a custom one that I had bought, but here we're gonna stick with the garage cars, the rentals. Sorry, the rentals, not the garage cars. Now, see, you remember that when we set up the race using the Mazda, our payout sits at 141,000 credits, right? Now, see what happens when I do with a slightly higher up category car. Let's go with this N200, which is just one category above the N100. I'm gonna set the same settings in the same track. So same thing, one lap, 20 cars, starting grid set to 20, rolling start doesn't matter, rolling start interval doesn't matter, but I like to set it at 25 meters, boost set to none, skip all of these all the way to opponent difficulty, group 1, intermediate you set to professional instead of intermediate. So you see that instead of 141,000 you get 133,000, so it's slightly less. And when you're doing this multiple times in order to get the maximum amount of money as possible, this is gonna add up and it's gonna take you longer. So there is a handicap applied based on how low in the categories your car currently is. So there's a reason why I chose that Mazda. So for all intents and purposes, we're gonna be sticking with the Mazda for this video as well, but a stock one. So I think I have clarified many of your concerns, many of your questions. So we're going to be moving on to the actual alternative to that method. So let's set the race up quickly. All right. Okay, great. So we have 141,000 credits payout. Alright, so before I jump into the track, I like to show you that there are no upgrades because I use the rental, so I don't own the car. I can buy any upgrades. Traction control, I'm gonna set to 0. It doesn't count as a tuning, as a proper tuning. The tires, I'm gonna leave them as default, but let's reset to default. I actually can't because it's already in default. You can see that I can tweak the suspension, I can tweak the brake balance, I can tweak any of the settings. It's all grayed out because I'm not using a car that I own in the game. So this should clarify that I'm using a stock car without any tuning settings applied to this. Now let's move on to the actual method. Now you're gonna be starting at the back of the pack because that's how you set up the race. And you're gonna drive towards the pit lane, which we're fairly close to. Alright, so here is the pit lane. So you want to slow down your car, and you're gonna want to be facing this wall, engage the reverse, try to be as close as possible to this line, and brake your car, park your car basically. Now you're gonna want to sit in this part of the pit lane for a while. It's gonna take you maybe 16 seconds, 20 seconds. All right, you see that I didn't do anything. I just sit there and waited for the animation to trigger. So this probably took maybe, I don't know, 16 seconds, 20 seconds. And this is how you do the alternative to that method that I showed on the first video. Now, here's the tricky part. The other method granted you a clean race bonus whenever you raced cleanly. You did the method cleanly without hitting any cones or without going off the track. But this method apparently doesn't grant you a clean race bonus regardless of how clean you do the method. I've tried this over multiple times trying to replicate what I did on using the other method, but I couldn't get it to work. But as you can see, it took us a minute and 7 seconds to do this, as opposed to that other method where you can do this in maybe 46 seconds to 50 seconds. So that's 17 seconds difference that's gonna add up when you do this over multiple times. So if you want to do the fastest method that you can get the most money per race or per minute, do that other method. But if you're having trouble doing that other method, you might want to try this one. Now, a lot of people is calling this cheating and taking advantage. And when it comes to cheating, yes, you're exploiting a bug that kind of tricks the game into thinking that you completed a lap, so you get the payout as you would if you had actually completed the race. So yeah, that's a little bit of cheating, but does it give you any advantage over the competition, over any of the players who have got all of their cars legit? Absolutely not. And the reason why is this game is very generous with the amount of cars it gives away for free on a daily basis. All you need to do is drive 43 kilometers a day. That's pretty much maybe three to four races you need to complete a day, depending on the length of the tracks that you set the races on. And that's it. You're gonna get one free car per day using this method. And if you really want to get more cars for free without doing any sort of glitches, all you need to do is go through the driving school, the mission challenges, and the circuit experience, and you should get a lot of cars for every row of challenges that you complete. So there's really no excuse if you have the time and if you have the patience to go through the game. And I personally think it's way more fun to unlock the cars this way rather than doing the glitch. But there are a lot of people who I saw in the comments who said that they don't have the time to play the game, or some of them, they don't have the patience to actually go through the game and unlock the cars. So this is a good method for them to get the cars they want, but that's not gonna offer any advantage because the cars are pretty well balanced between themselves. And Polyphony Digital is doing a great job releasing constant patches that kind of tweak the balances of the balance of the cars in order to keep them as level as possible within the category that they're competing on. Now, one bonus tip that I like to give you, there's another method that you can do to get mileage points very quickly in a legit way. And I found that the best way for you to do is by completing any events in the newly added GT League mode. So this is the old career mode as we have known for years, but in this game it's called GT League. And I don't know if it's a reference to any of the past Gran Turismo games because I skipped over Gran Turismo 3 and 4, so I don't have those as a reference. But if you do any of these events, you should get a disproportionate amount of mileage points. As you can see, I have almost 23,000 mileage points just by completing these career events. I completed all of these 5 sets of events. So this should give you a lot of mileage points very quickly in a legit way, without any glitches, without any sort of trick. So this should help you getting both money and mileage points as quickly as possible. Anyways, guys, I hope this has been helpful. I hope it has clarified some of the questions that you might have had regarding that other method. And I hope this provides you with an alternative that you can actually do without any trouble. But as I said, it's way more fun to unlock things naturally. But I know this is not for everyone. Not everyone enjoys actually playing through the game to unlock stuff. A lot of people would rather uh, have all the cars unlocked right off the bat. So I understand why there are a lot of people wanting to do the glitch, and this is why I'm doing this second video in the first place. But anyways, guys, thank you for watching. If you did enjoy the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for more GT Sport content, share the video with your friends and on your social media. Helps me out a lot, and I really appreciate the help. And I hope to see you guys on the next one. Bye.